returning, my lovely law enthusiast humans and other outside curiosities. I'm FCA. I am the outside juror. I do not have any professional legal experience, but I often say that just because you don't own a bakery doesn't mean you don't know how to bake. I am here to give you summaries and recaps, not legal advice or professional opinion. And today we are doing a recap of the Karen Read retrial day 12, and the whole day from start to finish was Trooper Bukhenik. Here he is. He is the supervising trooper for the homicide unit assigned to the John O'Keefe case / Karen Read case. And I have been giving credit where credit is due to Special Prosecutor Brennan. He's brought a really good case. He has made really good timelines. He has done a lot to dismantle and discredit the defendant. He is doing a good job. His case is much easier to follow, and he has a lot of evidence, and he's given a lot more objections, etc., to make his case strong. And the last couple days, it has been a fairly balanced thing between, oh, that could work absolutely for the prosecution. Actually, that could also work this way, depending on how a juror might see it for the defense. Now, in Massachusetts, there is a special jury instructor that says, if you can see things the prosecution or the defense way, you are required to lean in the way that favors the defendant towards the defense's point of view. It's all well and good. Brennan has done a great job, but there is no saving what happened with Sergeant Bukhenik today. I mean, I guess technically yesterday, because that was on the 8th and today's the 9th. But he was on the stand, and we had the normal thing. Brennan has done a very good job of streamlining people's professional careers, still being able to say their qualifications, which is very important, and giving a human element where it's not just a cop or just a doctor. This is a person doing their job the best they can with the experience and intellect they have. And we learned stuff about Sergeant Bukhenik that we did not learn before, that he had traveled from overseas to the United States when he was 10, that he was a part of the military, in the Marine Corps specifically, for several years, and that he became a trooper because he wanted to give back to a country that gave to him. And that's all good. That's, yes, huzzah. However, it went downhill very quickly. I had made a couple shorts, which I will try to link to below, when I was watching it in real time. But the prosecutor had Sergeant Bukhenik bring a box of evidence. It is supposed to be all of the stuff from the hospital, the clothing, the pants, shirt, the one shoe, and etc. stuff that was on John O'Keefe's body at the time at the hospital. And the reason why the prosecution wants that is because in their opening statement, they had said that there were fragments of taillight that we are going to link to Karen Read taillight on John O'Keefe's clothing. That's fantastic and good. Now, the problem here is that Trooper Bukhenik is not the one who bagged the evidence. It was former Trooper Proctor. And to make matters worse, he's on the stand and he's going through the evidence. Oh, will you please open the evidence? And he has on the rubber gloves and he's doing the demonstration and showing the pants and showing the shirt. But then it came time to show the shoe. I can't believe I said that correctly. He goes to bring the shoe out of the bag, and Prosecutor Brennan is nonchalantly, like, he's just doing his questioning thing. He's just like, and is that the shoe from the hospital, from Good Samaritan Hospital? And because he's not the one who bagged the evidence, the trooper has to read the bag, and he goes, I know, this is from 34 Fairview. Stop, wait, what? No. That shoe from 34 Fairview was already presented by Kevin O'Hara on day 11. Or on day 10. We got that already. We already had that evidence. This is supposed to be a new shoe. Where does this shoe come from? Why do we have the same shoe? And he goes, is that a left or a right shoe, trooper? And he goes, left, right, left? Is it 5 letters or 4, sir? L or an R? What are we doing? And he finally, and Prosecutor Brennan had to look at him and go, "Could you look at the shoe in your hand, please, sir? Yeah, the one that you're holding, could you see if that is a left or a right shoe? Do you have to read it to know what it..." Okay. So he determines, yes, this is the right shoe. All right. They had to make a sidebar to discuss this mistake because it just does not look good. Where, did you grab the wrong bag? Do we have the other bag? Or do we have two bags that were mislabeled as both coming from 34 Fairview? Because that means we have mislabeled evidence and we don't know. And since both of them were labeled left shoe 34 Fairview, right shoe 34 Fairview, you do not get a lot of mic drop moments because the witnesses already know what's happening. We've already seen this before, and everyone's a little more comfortable, so everyone's not so this. But that was an amazing moment for the defense because, like I said, they're going for a Bowden defense. This investigation was botched, and that is why you cannot go beyond a reasonable doubt for this defendant, because this investigation didn't do what it was supposed to do, and it didn't do it correctly. And you want to know what emphasizes that? When the supervising homicide trooper can't read the label, brings the wrong shoe, and has to be told to check the shoe to see which side it's on, and the same evidence gets presented twice. I'm pretty sure that it just ended up being, this was not stated, but based on the lack of objection during the continued questioning, I'm guessing that the trooper just misread the label or misunderstood the label. Because once they continued going, it was like, yes, this is the right shoe from the hospital, etc. And it was just allowed to carry on. Also want to mention that during the prosecution's case with this witness, he had said unprompted that, sometimes due to manpower, people can't always buddy up. Sometimes people unfortunately get fired or pass away, retire, etc. He started out with saying some people unfortunately get fired. Unprompted. The prosecution has been trying their darndest to keep that out of the limelight. And then you have this trooper who just brings it up without a cue. I'm pretty sure that if Brennan was less of a professional, he would have pooped himself. We also got that in the prosecution's testimony with Trooper Bukhenik, that we introduced some of the very unsavory text messages, including stuff about Yannetti that Proctor had said in text messages. And it was also brought up, Brennan was trying to get ahead of this, which on one hand it's noble, on the other hand I don't think it's going to help much, of the unsavory texts and saying things about, and the reason why Trooper Bukhenik had gotten punished and it was brought up that he was disciplined for this was because he had given a thumbs up like emoji on a text message between him and civilians and Proctor, where Proctor had said, "I'm going through his RTARD's defendant's phone." Proctor was going through Karen Reed's phone and called her the R slur. And that comment was liked and thumbs up by this trooper. He lost 5 days of vacation. He doesn't know what's going on, and he loses 5 days of vacation. Not had to go for a suspended period without pay. Not that he lost his job. If I effed up at work the way some of these investigators and law enforcement effed up in this case, I would have been fired last week. He also had liked and thumbs up when Proctor had said, "Haven't found any nudes yet, and I effing hate that man, I truly do." And he had sent a picture of Yannetti, who is one of Karen Reed's lead lawyers. That looks good. We ended the prosecution with going over, I don't know why we need this, But there was video evidence from one of the bars showing Karen coming in, ordering a drink, getting a straw, and with John O'Keefe with his arm around her, giving her a kiss, and them having a little, my girl's here moment. But cross-examination brought the tea, brought the heat. It was a spicy tea. Okay, we're talking like the highest level masala tea is what's happening here. And oh my peaches, it was a show. We immediately started with, how was this handled? Who was the lead investigator of this case? And do you know what the supervising trooper said on the stand? We don't have a lead investigator, we're a team. So then Jackson was like, teams have leaders. Not all teams have leaders. We all work together. Like, people have their own little responsibilities. They're responsible for this and that, but we work together. It's not that there's a leader. Who was the main case agent? That was Trooper Proctor, former Trooper Proctor. And And the reason why he had shot himself in the foot, basically, is because he had I already mentioned the very bad texts that were sent that he was disciplined for. I already said that he was a part of a text message chain with those, and there's more to come, BT dubs, on that text chain. And then he says that this investigation was made with the utmost integrity. And the highest honor and integrity went into this and every investigation they do. And when he was specifically asked, did former Trooper Proctor act with integrity and honor on this case? He said, I think that he acted with integrity in his investigation. He called the defendant the arsler and said he was looking through her phone. Not that the phone was getting extracted. He was going through it himself personally and hadn't found nudes yet. And that's just the little bit that was brought in on prosecution. And you're saying that this man, your main case agent, aka lead investigator, was acting with honor and integrity in the investigation? The nerve. Logged evidence. How do you know who was doing what in the investigation you were supervising? I wasn't in charge of the whole case. Who was? I don't know. Trying so hard to not answer questions. It was brought to sidebar, and the judge had to admonish him and tell him, sir, you need to do your best to actually answer the questions, because he was doing this thing where he was trying to throw a word salad and not actually answer the question. And Alan Jackson had to say like 3 times before they went to sidebar, okay, that wasn't my question. What was your question? My question was this. I think I answered that. Well, you didn't. Keep going. And it doesn't get better. Because once the clothes were collected, he kept saying that him and Proctor were the ones who were handling the clothes. They had laid out some butcher paper on a flat surface to let the clothes dry out. They had built up snow on them. They were left in a heap at the hospital, so they needed to lay them out, let them dry, and then they could go through and look at everything. And also, there were the pants and the shirts and everything were just shredded because they have to get cut off of the victim in the EMT. However, he kept on trying to say that he was trying to put that former Trooper Proctor was not at the scene. But he didn't help the case by saying, yeah, there's loads of people who could go into the evidence room. The guys in the evidence thing, they're in charge of doing stuff. Anybody could have walked back there. They were just laying in the evidence locker area, and there's lots of people who can just go in and out of there. Do you have any log or any way or documentation of showing who went in and out at what time while those clothes were drying for 6 days? No, anybody could have had access to them. And it was emphasized and, insinuated that, so you mean while Karen Reed's car was impounded at the Sallyport, which is connected to the evidence locker, anyone, including Proctor, could have gone in, taken pieces of taillight and sprinkled them or manipulated the clothing in any way. Was the clothing photographed or videoed? No. Lots of people had access to it, and there wasn't any way to say who went where when? Correct. Multiple trips over the course of weeks from the day of the incident, which, to remind you, was January 29th, 2022. 2022, more than 3 years ago at this point. And that over the course of several weeks, they had found more and more and more taillight pieces. Okay. No evidence log still. But yeah, they had went out multiple times. He was asked if he had known one of the other sergeants. He was asked if he knew who Brian Higgin was, what their relation was. And he just kind of walked around that whole conversation of, well, where are your reports about your searches that you did February 4th through the 10th and the following weeks? Yes, when were those reports made? Not until November 2023. Almost 2 years later, or over a year later, 2023, from February 2022, November 10th, 2023 is what dated the reports for searches made in February 2022. That is where Judge Canone ended. Like, again, she just cut off mid-sentence. Like, and we're done for the week, done for the day, let's go. It is so obvious that they are trying to not say that former Trooper Proctor was the lead investigator. They are trying so hard to distance from him. It's going to be obvious to the jury. It's obvious to the rest of us. And it's not helping. Just bring it up. Just say, he was the main investigator, and I'll admit he did not handle this well. And if Trooper Bukhenik would have said, and part of that is my responsibility, I didn't check the way I should have. I put a lot of trust in him to do his job correctly, and it seems my trust was misplaced. That would have went over so much better than just, I don't know what he did. I don't think he was the main investigator. I don't know anything about that. We don't make reports around here. The buffoonery is what the jury's going to remember, and not honor and integrity. That's the end of this. I will see you in the next one. Bye, my lovely humans.